And we are live. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the third episode of Exploring Star Trek Discovery, where we talk about Star Trek Discovery. Imagine that. This is our continuation, ramping up to the premiere of the series on September 24th. Only just a few weeks away, guys. Can y'all believe that?
Oh, so close.
So very, very close.
Yep. It's so very, very far.
Yeah, right. So I'm your host, Joe Hamilton, Average Joe, the Average Geek. With me are Will Smith and Kevin Stallings, my bridge crew, so to speak. If you were okay, guys. If I was the captain, because I have to be the captain, what position on a Starfleet bridge would you fulfill?
Does it have to be the bridge?
I guess not. It's a
Because I want to be the chief
command
engineer.
Staff. Like what position of the command staff would you be?
Chief engineer.
Okay. I kind of figured out about you, Kevin. How about you, Will?
Let's see, probably helmsman.
Hey, well, that'd be fun. So I see you can both be chief engineers, and you could have that like B'Elanna Torres and the character we all forgot about on Voyager dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
The dude that got replaced and then just shut up for the next 6 years. Oh yeah. So how's it going, guys? It's been a good week for Trek news. We got some fun stuff to talk about this week, because I know this week we're talking about the dreaded C word. You know, not cancer, but you would think on the internet talking about it is cancer. Canon. Yeah, we're gonna get some flack for this one, guys. This one's gonna be interesting.
We are.
I think
Excuse me.
I think I may have just been triggered.
just the idea of talking about canon is enough to trigger people. Now, the word canon, I talked about this last week. The word canon comes from the Catholic Church's compilation of the Bible in, medieval time, the 400s, Council of Nicaea, and moving on up towards, the creation of the Bible as we know today. And that's where the word canon comes from. I mean, even the canonization of saints. So the word has a religious connotation, and with Trekkies, it might as well be the word of a deity. So this is going to be interesting to see how canon changes and adapts and mutates and goes forward with Star Trek Discovery. We talked briefly about Sonequa Martin Green's character, Michael Burnham, being Spock's adopted sister. And then we spoke about the changes in the visual canon for the Klingons and the updates to how we see the ships. So putting those aside, how important is it that Discovery adheres to the established canon? Is there any wiggle room or no?
I don't think there will be any kind of wiggle room as far as story goes. There shouldn't be any wiggle room. Visual canon, yeah, that's going to change regardless of whatever era you're going to set the series in. But story canon should remain extremely faithful. I mean, you can't go from one episode saying, "Oh yeah, this character's father passed away," to the next weekend, to the next episode saying, "Oh yeah, I'm writing a letter to said person." No, right. I mean, it's got to adhere to canon as far as storytelling goes. Basically, like you said about the Bible, it all follows a path. And it can't divert from that. It's got to stay faithful.
So, what you think, Kevin?
Well, I kind of agree. I think you have to keep in terms of Trek, you have to keep the main the main events have to stay what they were. So, like, if this is in the Prime universe,
Wait. Did you just acknowledge that the J.J. Abrams films exist?
Yes, I did, Joe. Yes, I did.
Here come the pitchforks.
And if any viewers have a problem, please direct any and all hostile inquiries to Joe Hamilton at.
Yeah.
I'm sure they'll leave them in the glorious comment section below this video.
Yeah. But yes. Sorry, quote unquote, Trekkies. The J.J. Abrams films do exist. But if this shows in the Prime timeline, then yeah, you do need to keep canon with some things. Zefram Cochrane invents warp drive, obviously. The Romulans, well, from the Vulcans, they're not a separate species. Starfleet did not.
And they didn't see them until?
They did not see them until the episode Balance of Terror, which is after the Romulan War.
Right. They fought an entire war with a species and never saw what they look like.
Never saw them, yeah. There are certain things that should remain canon. Like if a character if somebody has a relative who dies, then yeah, they're not going to say that they're going to go visit said relative 2 episodes later. That just isn't.
This is one of the really interesting things about Discovery, though, because Discovery is in a very interesting position because it has to fit with the established canon both backwards and forwards. We have Enterprise in the past, and that told all the way up to the creation of the Federation in 2151, or was it 2161?
2160.
Yes. Yes, 2161. Oh my God, the pitchforks! I can see them marching down my front lawn now. There's a red glow outside my front windows already because I got the foundation of the Federation wrong. So it is balancing that very, very narrow path on, okay, so when were photon torpedoes invented? Like, okay, so when did, has to deal with, I guess that's probably a bad example because we saw them at the end of Enterprise. But it's very, Star Trek canon is very, very strict. Like, there's not a whole lot of wiggle rooms. Like, if we're telling a story about the Klingon War, which seems to be the first season, how it can't deviate too much or we're going to start violating things that we already know about the universe. Now, for me, I'm okay with some wiggle room. I'm okay with, history is written by the victors and history is always written from a future perspective about the past. And, we look at first-person examples of what happened, and we try to have first-person, sources to tell us about that history. But in our worlds, that's not always the case. We'll get histories of people that, oh, well, my grandfather said that, and it's, it's a second or third-hand history account. Is that possibly true for Star Trek? Within the realm of that universe. So is it possible that maybe the history we know about from, the 2360s with Next Generation and all that, did they have some things wrong in their history? So we might get slightly different versions of events than what we were necessarily told about. If that makes sense.
Absolutely true.
Kind of rambling.
Kind of like how we all grew up believing one thing about American history, but it probably happened way differently than what we were told.
Right. So we're starting to see that in some other universes out there, science fiction universes where canon is very, 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 very strict. We're learning that it's not necessarily the specific events, but an interpretation of events that we may have been told and that we may have been adhering to. Not going to bring up names for those universes, but, because this is a Star Trek show. But we're seeing that in other canon universes, so to speak. So very, very interesting to see what's going to happen with canon and Star Trek. So let's say that there is a massive gross violation. Like something happens in like the third episode of the series that just makes you sit back and go, bullshit. No, that didn't happen because in the third episode of the first season of the original series, we know that this happened. So here we are, just 10 years before, and all of a sudden it's changed. How would y'all react to that kind of event occurring in Star Trek Discovery? And do you have fears that those events could happen?
Hey, I mean, most definitely. I'll probably be raging like everyone else would. But then I got to think, well, I have to take a step back and say, well, maybe there's another side to this that I don't know about, like we just discussed, and maybe that will be explained further on in the series. Maybe that's just one part of a story or story arc that we haven't heard before, that it hasn't been continued yet. So I might have to kind of hold back my rage a little bit,
if you can,
if I can, yeah.
Because I might have a hard time, and I'm for a loose interpretation of canon, but if something just completely violates what we know in the original series, I might have to go on a rage bender. I might be a little pitchforky myself. How about you, Kevin? What you think?
I don't know if I would be like all pitchforky, stabby, and torches and all that, but I don't know. I would most definitely point it out. Being the Trekkie that I am, I would definitely point it out. There would be discussions, and there would be high level cabinet meetings about why do they do this. There would be much theorizing and postulating about where they're going with the story on this.
Move the threat awareness scale to DEFCON 2.
Yeah, could there the theory of could this be some like somebody messing with the time stream, which we all know they do in Star Trek quite often.
Right, another temporal war.
I kind of hope we avoid the time travel.
Yeah, I don't. Time travel's been done to death. I don't want any more time travel. But
maybe an episode. Maybe an episode, but I don't think we need the 29th century Federation mucking with history. We don't need another time war like we saw with Enterprise, which was a good storyline, but I think it muddies the waters too much. Time travel makes the issue of canon even more complicated than it already is unnecessarily.
Yeah.
So let's avoid time travel.
Right.
Hence the J.J. Abrams universe. I mentioned it again. Ha ha ha.
Well, it's a very interesting event. Like, okay, so this is, let's see, the Kelvin event happened when Kirk was what, 11 years old, 12 years old, roughly, when he lost his father to the
yeah, that was when he was
Errata.
That's when he was born.
Oh, it was when he was born. You're right. See, there you go. You're right. Absolutely. He was born when that happened.
So we know that's a part of canon. Prime canon.
Yeah. So if well, it wouldn't be prime canon, it'd be J.J. Abrams versus canon.
So probably right before Nero showed up, that was prime, obviously.
Yeah. So okay, let's say in this timeline right now, is George Kirk alive or dead?
Should be alive.
That's the
It should be,
theory.
yeah.
So I'm curious if that's necessarily going to be the case.
And also, if you look at Star Trek Beyond, the USS Franklin, I think it vanished in what 2164. That has to be
Yeah.
Prime as well.
Yes, that would have occurred in this timeline because that happened long before the Narada.
And I think that was the first ship that achieved warp 4. So
Well, if it was the first chip to reach warp 4, that means it would have had to have been before Enterprise. So it would had to have been
yeah, which
lost in the
Yeah.
early 2150s because the
right,
NX-01 launched in 2151,
Something like that.
something like that.
Roughly.
yeah. So that's another canon issue right there, which kind of now goes into the Prime timeline.
Well, unless the Franklin was in service with a warp 4 engine, up until the founding of the Federation, and then was lost a few years later underneath the United Federation of Planets Starfleet banner.
Mhm.
So see, canon gets funky. Canon gets really, really
It does.
funky. That's why I think, as much as we want to beholden everything to that holy canon, it might not always be possible for us to get interesting stories. Now, which leads me to let's see, what's the date on this article right here? I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen. Application window, share. Boom. Ah!
Oh, that's a little trippy.
All right, can y'all see my screen?
Yeah.
Cool. So the article in question was right here. Let's go ahead and pull that up. All right, so this article comes from July 10th, 2017. And Star Trek Discovery EP explains connection to the series. This is comicbook.com right here. And this was at a Las Vegas Star Trek convention. And it says, this is Alex Kurtzman, the producer of Discovery. He goes, if you're a Trek fan, you're going to see a lot of things which harken back to the original series and elements of the original series, Kurtzman says. I'm not just talking plot, but the spirit of what that show was. We're going to be revisiting a couple of things on Star Trek Discovery that I think people are going to find familiar. Without spoiling anything, we are adhering to a timeline and sticking to the rules. But also, I think, finding some new areas and avenues that have only been alluded to but never fully explored. He goes on to go, you have a room full of people with very different and very devoted relationships to Star Trek in that writer's room. And that carries on a pretty proud tradition of Trek being written by fans. You have a respect for canon as it's being written. You cannot say that never happened. No, you can't do that. They would kill you. Star Trek fans would kill you. Well, we would. No, you have to respect the canon. You have to understand the timelines, what the different timelines were, and what the different universes were, and how they all worked together. You have to keep very meticulous track of who, what, where, when, and why. And we have people in the writer's room whose sole job is to say, nope, can't do that. That is pretty wicked. That I find is pretty interesting. That to me says that they understand the importance of canon and then they actually have people working on it. Now, this article was immediately after the backlash when we started seeing the visual differences from Star Trek Discovery and the original series. We talked about it briefly a couple of episodes back, but I really think people were expecting to have gold turtlenecks and switches and levers and knobs on the helm console, a la original series. But this article right here, this quote from Kurtzman, makes me feel good. It makes me go, okay, so they get it, they understand, and they're going to do their best to stick to the rules. So how does these words from Alex Kurtzman make y'all feel as Trekkies?
I'm cool with it. It just shows that they're taking it seriously. They're not just going to go in and run roughshod over everything that's been done for the last, however, was it been 50 years, 40, 50 years of Trek.
50 years, yeah.
Yeah, it just shows that it shows that they've got people in there that know Star Trek. It shows that the show's being made by people who are fans of the show. It's not like Nemesis, who was the movie Nemesis that was done by somebody who had never watched Star Trek before.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, I mentioned
or even in the J.J. Abrams universe. Even the J.J. Abrams universe, which we don't hate as many Trekkies out there do, but J.J. Abrams was very forthcoming, saying that he never grew up a Trekkie, that he saw a few episodes here or there, but it wasn't until he got tapped to do the job that he started really watching the series, doing research, which worried a lot of people. And I think it shows in how those movies were made, how the flow and the tone was very, very different than the traditional Trek that we know.
Right.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, speaking of canon, violation of canon issues, if you look at the very first J.J. Abrams Trek movie, they weren't surprised when they saw what the Romulans looked like, which means they know what the Romulans look like already.
I didn't even think of that.
Obviously, that Trek movie takes place before the episode Balance of Terror would have taken place. They at some point in the altered timeline had contact with Romulans, and they knew, hey, these guys look like Vulcans.
Yeah, that's a pretty big canon violation there.
Yep.
Because we were all worried about that happening with Enterprise. When we got the word, I think it was in season 4 when we first saw the Romulan Warbird. You're like, oh God, they're going to show the Romulans. They're going to violate canon. And then they didn't, but we did see the ship. We had those very first interactions, but with no breaking of the sacred canon.
Yeah. Well, I mean, for one, I believe, that it's a huge sigh of relief that, he's sitting there saying, okay, we have these group of people that know Trek, and we're going to work together, and we're going to make this show, like, super awesome for everybody. And we got a few tricks up our sleeves to really wow everybody. That's a huge sigh of relief for me. Because this ain't like Stuart Baird, directing Nemesis, of course, an editor who never directed a Trek movie. Awesome editor, by the way, but he not so much as a director. It really showed in his work, and
right.
For someone like Kurtzman to come in and has already worked with JJ, on the first couple of Trek movies. I mean, he already knows what's up. He knows what's to be expected of Trek, and to actually hire on people who are going to be fact checkers, so to speak, of canon. It really puts my mind at ease.
Yeah, I really like what he said about the proud history of Trek being written by fans. Because I know, when we were in high school and we were doing that goofy kind of Star Trek fan club thing we did, Will, we had dreams of writing scripts and submitting them because fan scripts were being made.
Yeah.
So there was that 1 in a million chance that your script could make it on the TV. Sadly, I never got any submitted, but it was a dream.
Yeah, it was a dream. I have a dream to have a dream. That's what I had. So
the continuing adventures of the USS Firestorm.
Oh man, I think I still have some of those publications somewhere.
Oh, that's a name I've not heard for a long time. Long time. God damn it! I can't get through a single episode of this show without referencing Star Wars. People are going to murder me.
It's okay.
Guys, I'm trying.
It's all right.
I am an equal opportunity nerd, guys. I have my Doctor Who shirt on. Like, I have Alien collectibles over here. I got Dragon Ball collectibles over here. I've got Star Wars and Star Trek over there. Some Marvel stuff over there. Like I'm an equal opportunity geek, guys.
Yeah.
All of my universes blend together. You might get a Kamehameha reference in the middle of a Star Trek Discovery thing. You know.
We'll say that we'll just say a microscopic wormhole opened up, and a voice came through that overtook yours.
Yes, that's it. That's exactly it. I was possessed. I was possessed by a super intelligent shade of blue.
There you go.
Now, if y'all understand that reference, y'all are as geeky as I am.
Yep. Because as we all know, all of this has happened before, and all of this will happen again.
And there Kevin goes with the Battlestar. Like,
Don't say we are all.
Well, praise Cobalt.
But Ron Moore ties it all together. So Ronald D. Moore ties it all together.
Yes. Well, see, I hope Ronald D. Moore writes some Trek Discovery episodes. You know, his work with Deep Space Nine and the Dominion War was so good. I'd love to see Ron Moore get his hands on like Discovery and this new form of Star Trek storytelling that we're getting. So, because I mean, Battlestar. So, there's another fun thing. Now, we were talking about, we mixed in all these other universes, of course, which I'm sure has people completely screaming at us. But one of the fun things is, now this was really interesting. As someone that loves cohesive universes and universes that switch, or excuse me while I'm over here trying to push buttons. Boom. There we go. You see what I got?
I see multiple
me's
pictures of us, and that's me on the screen.
Okay. Oh, there we go. How about now? You see me now? Do you see
nope.
Klingon?
No.
I see me.
By God. All right, let's try this again.
I see infinite me's, and it is beautiful.
Oh, I saw something. Okay, I see it now. Okay.
All right, here we go. Now, for the first time, now this is a Star Trek Discovery Klingon. Now, for the very first time in Star Trek history, it was announced that the tie-in works for Star Trek Discovery, including a comic from IDW called Star Trek Discovery, which will follow the Klingon characters, including T'Kuvma, the leader of the Klingons, who will be played by Chris Obi in the series. And this one right here, Star Trek Discovery Desperate Hours. This has me pretty stoked. These will be canon with the TV series. For the first time in Trek, the add-on works, the separate works, will be canon with the story. This is exciting. Like, okay, here's the Simon & Schuster actually revealed the synopsis for the novel Desperate Hours. Aboard the starship Shinzo, Lieutenant Michael Burnham, a human woman raised and educated among Vulcans, is promoted to acting first officer. But if she wants to keep the job, she must prove to Captain Philippa Georgiou that she deserves to have it. She gets her chance when the Shinzo must protect a Federation colony that is under attack by an ancient alien vessel that has surfaced from the deepest fathoms of the planet's dark, uncharted sea. As the menace from this mysterious vessel grows stronger, Starfleet declares the colony expendable in the name of halting the threat. To save thousands of lives, Burnham must infiltrate the alien ship. But to do so, she needs to face the truth of her troubled past and seek the aid of a man she has tried to avoid her entire life. Until now. That sounds awesome.
Oh, yeah, without giving too much away. Yeah, it's great.
And it's canon! Yay! Being a manager of a bookstore and spending 45 to 50 hours a week in a bookstore, Kevin and I have talked about this particular issue a lot, and how both of us would have been much more into the Star Trek novels if they actually had weight and counted in the universe. You know, I absorb all the extra material for other universes that shall remain unnamed because I don't want more pitchforks. But I would do that with Trek if it was canon. You know, if I could get the continuing adventures of the Starship Enterprise in a novel, I would have read them all. But they're not canon, so I kind of felt like, what's the point? This changes that. It's like, okay, I need to know more now. I want to know this story. I'm going to have to read this story so I can figure out more about this character. I can't wait. What you think, guys?
It's going to help me brush up on my reading. I don't really read novels much anymore, but since it's going to be canon, you know, help me out just a little bit there. You know,
little more kick in the pants to read it.
Exactly.
So how about you, Kevin? You excited about having canon Star Trek novels?
I am very excited about this. I've always wondered why they weren't canon. I mean, you know, there are other universes, you know, who shall remain nameless. Dun 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 dun. We all know which one I'm talking about.
Right.
Where the books are canon. And I've never understood why Star Trek. You know, I've never understood why in Star Trek the books weren't canon.
Yeah, that always annoyed me because there were some really good ones. Some really good ones. Like the Section 31 novels are so good. Like
the Titan novels with Captain Riker. I mean, now Admiral Riker. He got promoted to Admiral in the books. So they're actually really good. I know they're not, you know, the odds of us ever getting prime timeline next gen era show are pretty nil.
Right,
so
right.
The canon we're gonna get.
But you know, if these novels are successful, who's to say that they won't add canon Next Generation, canon Voyager, canon DS9 novels that exist later in the timeline? You know, like legitimate official stories of those crews. Man, Trekkies would eat that shit up.
Yes.
I know I would.
Yeah.
I'm sure you guys.
Yeah.
Like, I would love, like, okay, we'll never get new Trek. We'll never get another Next Generation movie. We'll never get another Next Generation series, which is perfectly fine and perfectly understandable. But if we can get new stories that are official, be still my Trekkie heart.
Yeah. It's like one of the few novels I've read, one of them being Star Trek Probe, which is a follow-up story to my favorite movie, Star Trek 4, talks about how the Well probe went to Romulan territory and how, you know, that all came about. I mean, it was a great novel, but it was like, but I felt like at the time, I was like, I'm wasting my time because it's not canon. It's never going to turn into a movie. They're never going to mention it.
Right.
So, but for now, you know, with new Trek novels and everything, yeah, it's going to be fantastic.
Man, if Michael Burnham and Philippa Georgiou name drop this colony that they're alluding to in the synopsis here, if they name drop that colony in a series, how freaking cool would that be?
Yeah,
that would be awesome. Because that'd be like a really awesome like treat for Trekkies that you're like, yo, I know that story, and I can tell you about that story. Here's the novel. Read it.
Yeah.
It's great.
Oh yeah, and even with the J.J. Abrams movies, you know, when you had like the comic book series Star Trek Countdown, which actually told you what happened, you know, with Captain Data of the Enterprise.
Yeah.
You know, great graphic novel, but it's like, it's not canon, but it makes sense.
Right. So I hope this starts a trend for the future. I really do.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want fully produced audiobooks for these Trek novels. Like, I require that in my life now.
I will listen to it every day.
When's it coming out?
Let's see. Star Trek Discovery Desperate Hours follows on September 26th. So 2 days after the series premieres, and Star Trek Discovery #1 by IDW will premiere in October.
Now, I wonder if there is going to be a timeline that's going to coincide with the episodes and the novels, like what episode you should watch first and what novel you should read in between which episodes.
See, that's tricky language, because that's what hardcore Trek fans want. Like, they want to know exact placement. Like, okay, you got these hints about the story in these episodes, and then in these episodes, and then they allude to again in the original series episode Balance of Terror. They say this line, which alludes back to this. Like, if they get deep with it, just give us like a couple of paragraphs at the very beginning, like in the foreword of each novel, saying this is what you should know. These are the episodes you get this information from, and this book takes place between these hours and these star dates in between these episodes. Oh, please.
Yeah.
Please. Please.
That's exactly how I watched every Star Trek episode. Watch it from Enterprise down to Voyager. There was a website I went to that broke everything down. You should watch this episode before you watch this one. And in between, I was going back and forth between Next Generation and Deep Space Nine, back and forth between episodes. It was crazy.
In those later seasons.
Yeah, but it was great. It was great.
Yeah. The Trek books that are out now, even though they're not canon, there's still like a little paragraph in the beginning that says this novel takes place in the year 23 whatever,
right.
6 months after the events of Nemesis, let's say, or
okay,
or parts of this novel take place in 2278, or and then other parts take place 100 years later.
Right. See, I'm so stoked of the idea of new Trek being canon with novels and everything. So Pat says Pat couldn't make it tonight, guys, but he says it's got a good show. We got a good show going down. And to our viewers, like, please leave comments on the YouTube page. We can read them off live right here. I got a little window popped up. We can see your comments, bring them on. So if you got something to throw in on this, by all means, bring it in. Let's talk about it, because this is exciting. Like, this is really exciting. So I feel compelled to go out and buy every issue of Star Trek Discovery from IDW. I feel compelled to go out and start getting every single novel, because if we all do our part and we actually go out and read these things, the chances of us getting more cool stuff, it just grows exponentially. But we have to do our part. Like, we actually have to go give a shit and read them.
Right.
if
we don't do our part and we don't read them, there's no point in them producing them.
Yeah. We can't get bootleg copies, or
exactly.
Go out and spend the money.
Yeah,
gotta be legitimate.
Absolutely. Like, if you really enjoyed that movie, but it bombed at the box office, but you want a sequel, go buy a copy. That's why I bought a copy of Power Rangers, because that movie was better than it had any right to be, and I want a sequel.
Well, you can speak for yourself, but, I have my own reservations about that, too.
So, like I said, I'm an equal opportunity geek. I give everything a fair shot.
Right.
Oh, man. So, I think that was a pretty good discussion on Canon. A little short episode this week. I mean, we're running at like about 45 minutes now. That's cool. And it was a nice little touch base. I think we all agree that there's a little wiggle room, but not much.
Yeah.
You know, we're not including visual canon because visual canon has to update to make the show relevant. And
Yes.
I think any thinking Trekkie can accept that fact. But if they start violating story, now we're going to fight. You know, and there's no better place to fight than the comment section on a Facebook page.
Yep. Works wonders.
Man, some of those Trek groups out there on Facebook are just brutal.
Yes, they are.
More brutal than any 4chan thread.
Yeah. That I can agree with.
Oh. Sometimes I just have to take a step back and just go, okay, I'm out. I can't. I'm done. Have it, guys. I'm good. It's like if you dare mention that, oh, my favorite Star Trek movie is Into Darkness, you get just eviscerated. Like, straight up mech left to the gut. You're done. That's okay.
My name is God. Oh, like I didn't see that one coming from a mile away.
Oh God, it was the worst kept secret in film.
It was.
It's the worst kept secret.
I want to be Gary Mitchell. Like, yeah, you are. Okay.
I remember they tried so hard to keep that, you know, John Harrison is Khan's secret for Into Darkness, and then they produced and then in the trailer that they released, there was a display screen of the characters when they're rocketing out of the ship, you know, and they're tracking them across the screen, and it says Kirk Khan.
Oops, I'm sorry.
You just fucked that up.
Yeah, really.
Of all the other scenes you could have put in the trailer, that one. So, I'm trying very hard.
I think that's the trend with like Trek trailers in general. Because I think in Trek 3, oh, you saw the Enterprise blow up. Really? Why would you show that in the trailer?
Oh. Trailers are hit or miss, man. You could blow a trailer so easy. You could blow a movie. Like Batman versus Superman, Batman v Superman. Yeah. When you have the biggest reveal in the movie revealed in the first trailer. So the whole gut punch of Doomsday appearing, which was supposed to be badass, was just completely blown. There was no surprise. Thank you, trailer, for showing us the entire movie.
Right.
And then you realize their version of Doomsday looks like a cave troll from Lord of the Rings.
Absolutely looks like a cave troll from Lord of the Rings. They have a cave troll. Oh. Yeah. There we are veering off topic again. Well, guys, this was another really good episode. I love talking to you guys about this stuff. Good episode. So we've got a few more weeks to go. Let's see. Maybe next week we can start digging into the ship. We'll start taking a little bit more of a close, in-depth look at the ship. We'll get some pictures and we'll get like techie trekkie on it.
Hopefully we'll reveal the bridge by then. The actual bridge.
I think the image is out there. I remember seeing a brief image of Gabriel Lorca on the bridge of the Discovery. Of course, we got the bridge of the Shinzo. We have seen the updated Discovery and the pizza cutter saucer, as I've heard somebody refer to it as, because it has that gap. Like it's two saucer sections. You've got the center saucer section with the strut that heads out towards the engineering sections in the nacelles. And then there's little bridges that connect it to a larger ring on the outside, but there's a gap in the middle. So I've heard somebody describe it as the pizza cutter ship, which is cool because you can get one of those really nifty, expensive, stainless steel pizza cutters of Star Trek Discovery. So maybe next week we'll talk like Broussard collectors and how it has the original series style Broussard collectors on it, which is really freaking awesome, or something like that. We'll see if we can't get a little techie.
Just an interesting side note, talking about pizza cutters. I do have a pizza cutter that is shaped like the original series Enterprise.
There you go. I remember when you bought that at the store we work at.
Yeah, I was very happy.
And I was just wondering, someone has to have that pizza cutter.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's a great pizza cutter. It's gorgeous.
Well, yeah, it's never touched a pizza, and it never will.
I believe that. I completely believe that. Do you have it on display with your other starships, Kevin?
Of course, Joe. Of course.
There you go, man. There you go.
It's in its molded foam package, and it's sitting out.
Just like just leaning up on a bookcase, like a nice light shining on it.
Yeah.
like my video lights shining onto my hands now.
It's not the centerpiece of my coffee table. That's my Diamond Toys Enterprise TV, but it's, I can only be so.
Every time you go to a convention, you come back in the store and like, hey Joe, check out this new ship I got. I'm like, it's amazing.
Yes, I did.
I see. I've got some Diamond Select series. I have a couple of Diamond Select figures over here. I have Kirk versus Khan from Space Seed. When Khan's splayed out on the control deck and Kirk's beating him with a pipe. I have Spock kneeling beside the Horta going. Ah! I love those two pieces. I don't have any ships, which is a tragedy. I've got to get some ships, man.
Oh, we got to have like a show and tell episode one day soon.
Oh, that's not a bad idea. That's not a bad idea. We'll have to put it on the docket.
I'll have to break out my Halo chips also. So.
Oh, yeah. See, there we go. Equal opportunity geeks. Like equal opportunity geeks. No franchise left behind. This just happens to be a Trek show, but I'm sure we could come up with 15 other shows from 15 other franchises if we wanted to.
Sure.
that we all know the technical specifications of the ship and how the FTL systems work and the yield of their weaponry and their captain names, and we could have 15 different shows.
Yeah.
But right now, Star Trek Discovery is the most prescient because holy shit, guys. Trek is coming back to TV. Good episode, guys. We will definitely reconvene this. I have been your host, Joe Hamilton. With me, of course, my buddies, Will Smith, Kevin Stallings, Trekkies extraordinaire. They are my command crew here on the USS Exploring Star Trek Discovery. Live long and prosper. And I off.